Imagine a place so deeply hidden from the world that only a select few are granted access, a library that holds not only ancient manuscripts and historical documents, but also forbidden texts that have the power to challenge everything we think we know about religion, history, and even the divine itself. This is not a myth or a legend. Such a place exists, and it lies in the heart of the Vatican, known officially as the Vatican Apostolic Library. This secretive collection has fascinated scholars, theologians, and conspiracy theorists for centuries. The Vatican Library was officially established in 1475 by Pope Sixtus IV, but its roots are believed to go back much further. What makes this library different from any other is not only the age and value of its contents, but the extraordinary restrictions placed on who may access it. Unlike public libraries, the Vatican Library is not open to the public. Even accredited scholars must go through a rigorous process to gain permission to enter, and they must provide compelling reasons for their research. Only a handful are ever allowed in. This extreme level of secrecy raises an important question. What is so dangerous, so transformative, that it must be kept locked away from the world? Within its vaults, the Vatican Library is said to house more than just theological treatises and papal records. Hidden among its collection are manuscripts that call into question the established narratives of history, Christianity, and even the structure of divine authority. Some of these texts have been labeled as heretical, while others are so esoteric and radical in their content that the Church deemed them too dangerous for the public. These are not ordinary censored books. These are texts that threaten the power, structures of institutions, rewrite the story of faith, and propose alternate views of the universe and the human soul. One of the most well-known of these is the Gospel of Judas, a manuscript discovered in Egypt in 1978 and dated back to the 2nd century. This text presents a completely different interpretation of Judas's period, in stark contrast to the canonical Gospels. Judas is not portrayed as the traitor who betrays Jesus for silver. Instead, he is shown as the disciple who truly understands Jesus' divine plan. According to this gospel, Judas acts not out of greed or disloyalty, but out of obedience. To Jesus' own instruction, he becomes the one chosen to initiate the events that would lead to Jesus' transcendence. This radical reimagining of Judas completely upends centuries of Christian belief and, if accepted, could shift the foundation upon which the Church's moral and theological structure has been built. It is perhaps for this reason that the Church excluded it from the biblical canon and buried it under the label of Gnosticism, a movement long condemned by Orthodox Christianity. Another hidden chapter within the Vatican Library concerns the Knights Templar, a powerful military and religious order that was accused of heresy in the 14th century and dismantled through torture and execution. While history records their end, little is said about what happened to their vast archives. It is believed that many of their secret documents, including writings on the Holy Grail, alchemy, and spiritual initiation, were seized by the Church and transferred to the Vatican Library. These texts, if they exist, could hold revolutionary knowledge. The Holy Grail in particular has long been a symbol of divine power and mystical truth. If the Templars possessed authentic records about it, and if those records are hidden in the Vatican, then the Church is guarding something that could potentially change our understanding of divinity and sacred history. Equally compelling are the alleged letters of Mary Magdalene, which are said to rest in the hidden shelves of the Vatican Library. These letters depict Mary not as the repentant sinner so often portrayed in church teachings, but as a key spiritual leader and intimate confidant of Jesus. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene, discovered in 1896, also suggests that she held unique insights into Jesus' teachings, often deeper than those of the male apostles. This perspective threatens to unravel the patriarchal foundation of institutional Christianity and suggests that early Christianity may have been far more diverse and inclusive than what we have been led to believe. If these letters and texts were released to the public, they could potentially ignite a spiritual revolution and force a reevaluation of the role of women in both past and present Christian structures. Perhaps the most extraordinary claims are those involving extraterrestrial contact. Some researchers and theorists argue that the Vatican possesses ancient texts that indicate humanity has already been visited by beings from other worlds. These writings allegedly suggest that many religious experiences, visions, revelations, divine messengers, were actually encounters with advanced civilizations from beyond Earth. This would imply that religion itself, in part, is an interpretation of interdimensional or extraterrestrial events. If such documents truly exist, they would not only challenge the theological core of many faiths, but could reshape humanity's place in the universe. The Vatican's silence on this issue only fuels speculation. Could the Church be hiding the greatest revelation in human history? That we are not alone, and that our myths and scriptures may be filled with encoded accounts of cosmic encounters. The Church's actions during the Inquisition also point to a long-standing pattern of controlling knowledge. The Inquisition was not only a campaign to root out heresy, it was a strategic effort to centralize power by limiting access to information. During this time, countless manuscripts were burned, and many more were hidden away. Some of the greatest losses came from the suppression of ancient wisdom, philosophical texts from thinkers like Aristotle and Plato, and esoteric traditions, like Hermeticism, were targeted. Hermetic teachings, which speak of unity between the divine and human, and which offer spiritual enlightenment without church mediation, were seen as deeply subversive. Texts dealing with alchemy, astrology, and the Kabbalah were also considered a threat, not because they were false, but because they offered truths that challenged the monopoly of the church over divine knowledge. The suppression was not simply about eliminating alternative views. It was about controlling the human narrative, erasing the collective memory of different civilizations, silencing ancient sources of wisdom, and editing spiritual history allowed the church to present a singular, approved version of truth. This monopoly over knowledge made the Vatican Library more than just a repository. It became a fortress of control, where the boundaries of acceptable thought were carefully policed. Even today, much of what is known about history and theology may be an edited version, shaped by those who had the power to decide what should be preserved and what should be hidden. Today, the Vatican Library continues to function under strict surveillance. The archives are protected around the clock, and access is extremely limited. Those who are permitted entry cannot freely browse the shelves or handle ancient documents. Instead, they must work through digital screens or facsimile, preselected by Vatican curators. Any attempt to disclose sensitive material can result in permanent expulsion from the archives. These tight controls raise troubling questions. What is so powerful or dangerous in these texts that the public must be kept from them? Who decides what truths the world is ready for? And how much of what we believe today would change if even a fraction of these hidden documents were made public? If the Vatican is indeed hiding knowledge capable of transforming religion, history, or even science, then the implications are profound. The question is not just what is hidden, but why. Is it to protect the faithful, to preserve order, or to maintain authority in a world that might change irreversibly if certain truths were revealed? The answers remain locked behind ancient walls. But perhaps the greatest mystery is not what lies within the Vatican Library, but why we are not allowed to see it.